Okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming tonight, everybody. My name is Anna Kilpack. I'm the Executive Director for NAMI Southwest Iowa. How many of you know what NAMI is? Woo! Pretty good crowd. For those that don't, that might be joining us on Facebook Live, hopefully we've got some people out there, and welcome. This is the first time we're doing a Facebook Live event, so bear with us if we have any technical glitches, but we're glad that you were able to join us. So NAMI, N-A-M-I, stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it's a national organization, obviously. There's also a state level, NAMI Iowa, and then we're the local affiliate, NAMI Southwest Iowa. So we cover 9 counties in Southwest Iowa. We're currently in Cass County, so obviously this is one of them. I'm not going to name them all off because I cannot remember them off the top of my head. But from the Missouri border up to Monona County, and from the Missouri River over to Cass County is our service area. So what do we do? What does NAMI do? Well, we do support groups for individuals living in recovery and family members. We do classes for both family members and peers. And we also have classes specifically for family members of veterans and parents of minor children. So lots and everything that we do is from the perspective of someone with lived experience. So that's unique. There's a lot of classes and groups out there, but they're typically led by professionals. All of our groups and classes are led by individuals with lived experience. And I think that's so important to know that you're learning information from someone who's been there, who's been in your shoes. And so additionally, we also do presentations to try to raise awareness and reduce stigma surrounding mental illness. And we have lots of little events like this. So this is our C.A.R.E.S series, C.A.R.E.S. It stands for Community Advocacy, Resources, Education, and Support. And we have it in a different location each month and a different topic each month. So we've done topics such as helping our veterans or art as therapy. We've done, name something else, Chris. Put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
So we have done ABLE accounts, I couldn't think of the word. ABLE accounts, which is a financial savings account for people on disability. And tonight, of course, we're doing mental health and nutrition. And I think we all know, but we all don't really think about it all the time, how nutrition can affect our well-being, our mental well-being. We know it affects our physical well-being, right? We go to the doctor, and the doctor tells us we can take off some pounds because, you know, it's not good for our heart disease, and it's not good for diabetes, and it's not good for, you know, all these things. But how often do they tell us it's not good for our mental health? Not very often. So we need to open up that conversation, and that's just what these meetings are about. It's really meant to be a candid, very informal conversation about mental health. Obviously, those joining us on Facebook Live, you won't be able to join in the conversation, so to speak, but I hope that you'll get something out of it. If you do have questions or want to ask questions, feel free to send us an email at info@namisouthwestiowa.com or send us a message on Facebook. Because of the setup, I won't be able to monitor all the comments tonight, but I hope that you'll be able to stay with us and watch the event. So without further ado, I would like to introduce tonight Mr. Chef Jamie Kohler, excuse me. Jamie has been an executive chef. He's been lots of different things. He has had a very successful life, and he's had a lot of stresses in his life. And being diagnosed with a mental illness, he's going to share his story of how life has been to him and how nutrition has really affected, how he's found that it affects his mental health and what he's found has worked for him. So, welcome, Jamie. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome. It's so nice to have our guests here tonight. Thank you for being here with us. It's a pleasure to be able to share from the heart what it's like to live with, to strive with, and to thrive with a mental illness. Because a mental illness is a diagnosis. but it is not a crushing diagnosis, nor is it something that limits you. It's actually something that actually gives you a guidepost in life. So I've been a part of this church now for about 1.5 years. This is our first time hosting an event like this, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they have some wonderful teachings on health and nutrition. I learned a lot from the elders in the church family. We have a fellowship, like most churches, when you get done with your church service. We have a buffet, but this one happens to be vegan, or primarily vegan. And so I've been learning. My first cooking class that I did in the community recently was actually a vegan cooking class. And we did with cannelli beans and roast butternut squash and all kinds of yummy good foods. So they say you can never trust a skinny chef. And that is gospel. That is so true. However, this chef would like to stay around for a while. So I've been working on making some positive changes in my life with nutrition. Nutrition lessons I've learned from my mother, from my godmother, who's a life and food coach. Her name is Diane DeVito. And she'll probably be watching this next time. If not tonight, she'll be watching it when we replay it or have it available for folks. So whatever you're watching at home tonight, you can actually watch this again or share it with friends. Like Anna mentioned, you can have some questions. I'll be happy to answer some questions in the future as well. So life is like a novel. And those who have not traveled have read but only a page. So the young man of 46 to stand before you, has had the pleasure of traveling the world. My mother is from New Zealand, and so I'm a dual national. I'm a citizen of New Zealand as well as the United States. But I had my 5th birthday in Nairobi, Kenya, in East Africa. I spent time in Spain. I spent time in Mozambique and Mombasa, on the eastern part of Africa. I got to travel through Europe and Ireland, and of course, as a citizen of New Zealand, I spent about 4.5 good years in New Zealand. Now, how many of you have ever heard of a victory garden? Right? People are starting to plant victory gardens again for their health and their nutrition, because growing up, everyone had a garden. The best place to get the peas, you need to spend more time in the garden. More time with fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. Because if you didn't have a garden, you didn't eat. And so some of us friends are vegetarian, some are vegan, some just are doing lean meats or leaner meats. Some are addicted to fast food and treats. Some of us like ice cream a little too much. Myself, as a chef, I try to find a balance. And so just recently, over the course of the last 4 months, I've been doing a low-carb, more vegetarian or vegan diet, and I've lost 26 pounds. Now that's a big journey for me, and a big accomplishment, because it is so hard to keep those pounds off. So my doctor, she's very happy with me because I'm doing it gradually. Not going with a fad, not going with something that, somebody said, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that, but learning to balance nutrition, learning to balance exercise. So exercise. Now, Paul, you're a bicyclist, yes?
A little bit.
So I love to ride a bicycle. One of the next things I'm purchasing for myself as part of this journey is a bicycle. Because when you have a bike, you have freedom. When you have a bike, you have mobility, and you have a great way to get good exercise. I find that the two things that help the most are walking and swimming. We have a great Y here in our community. Not everyone has a YMCA close by, but we happen to have a great YMCA right here in Cass County. So when I was a little boy, I learned from my mother and my grandmothers. They were my first chefs, my first teachers. They were the first ones to instruct me by their side. And I'll never forget, there was this lady who came on television one day, and she was a really tall woman, and she had big black hair and a big booming voice, and her name was Julia Child. And I thought she was the neatest thing since ever had been, because I'd never met anybody like Julia Child. She cooked like my mother cooked. She cooked with wine, and she cooked with butter, and she cooked with fresh herbs from the garden. Well, Julia Child liked to have a little bit too much of the wine while she was cooking in the kitchen. And so there was a very famous scene where it used to be when they would do the television, when they would actually record the cooking class, they would do it live. They would record the cooking classes live. And Miss Child had a little bit too much of the wine that she was cooking with. And she stumbled, and she dropped a roast beef right on the floor. Well, this was live television, so she couldn't miss a beat. So she picked it up, She put it on the table, she gave it a couple of slaps, she looked right in the camera and she said, "And remember, you are the only one in the kitchen." Woo-hoo!
I remember that.
The other chef who taught me a lot as a child was the Swedish chef from The Muppet Show. How many of you remember watching The Muppet Show growing up with Jim Henson? Remember watching The Muppet
Yep.
Show? See that? So much fun. If you can go on to Google and type in The Muppet Show chef, right? So much fun. Super, super cool guy. And the chef was crazy and wild and wonderful and loud and made noises and had rubber chickens that he threw in the air, and so it excited me. It made cooking exciting. And then as I grew up a little bit older, I had a chef cousin named Jason. And Jason is Chef Jason Roberts from Wellington, New Zealand, who he was one of the youngest restaurateurs of his kind. He had 2 successful restaurants in New Zealand. He had a winery, he had a bottled water company, and he also had a couple of nightclubs to boot. But he struggled with mental health and addiction. Well, myself, I was born where my father and my uncle, 2 vibrant, intelligent, wonderful, awesome human beings, also happen to have bipolar disorder, a chemical imbalance. And that's all it is. It's a chemical imbalance. We all have our manic episodes. We all have our depressive episodes in life. Sometimes they're triggered by the other person's mania, or they're triggered by the other person's depression or sadness. And so in my family, we've had episodes where if my father got sick, guess who else got sick? Little Jamie got sick. As a child, my dad kind of mixed the roles. I was a bit of a doctor to my dad. In fact, he would call me, he would say, "Dr. Jamie." And he wasn't Swedish, but he said Jamie. You know, "Dr. Jamie." And he'd have me bring him his lithium with a beer chaser. Now, you shouldn't be mixing your lithium with alcohol. I didn't know that. I was just a kid bringing my dad his medicine. Well, I went for my brother Timothy. My brother Timothy, who was adopted, is Native American. He's half Lakota, and actually all Lakota, 100% Lakota. Lakota Sioux Indian from South Dakota. That's where I grew up. That's where I was born in New York, but I grew up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That's where I attended high school as I went to college. And one of the things that's kind of special, kind of unique, is I got to grow up on the reservation. I got to spend time going to powwows and seeing the dancers, the eagle feathers and the beads and the whoop dancers and the powwow drums, and be a part of another culture. But I also got to see the dark side of addiction and alcoholism and mental illness, because oftentimes they go hand in hand. Why is that? It's because a lot of us that have depressive illnesses or mood disorders want to self-medicate. And in modern society and in classical society, one thing that was always accepted was a glass of wine, or a glass of beer, or a cocktail. Some people choose not to drink, some people drink. Personally now, after 12 years of doing this, I made the decision to enter a 12-step program, and as of March, I'll have 2 years clean and sober.
Good, good.
And that's a real accomplishment because it means I'm not self-medicating anymore. I'll share with you a little bit later in what happened to bring me here. But I wanted to get to why I was invited tonight to share. But nutrition. So how many of you know a little grocery store called Hy-Vee? You ever heard of Hy-Vee?
Yeah.
We're in Iowa, so everybody knows Hy-Vee. I was that helpful smile in every aisle. I was the one that greeted people and welcomed them, made them feel welcome at that event, made them feel welcome shopping. I taught cooking classes on a regular basis, and I had to do a recipe every single day. The reason why I'm here tonight, or part of why I'm here tonight, part of why I'm reaching out to share my story is I've recently been writing a column for our local newspaper, for the News Telegraph here in Atlanta. And it was a kind of an organic thing how it happened. There was a front page story about a bunch of people getting together, a bunch of chefs doing their salsa contest and doing their best salsa recipes. So as a chef, I got excited by this idea of wanting to share recipes. So I called the newspaper and I said, "Hi." I'm shy.
I've noticed.
I said, "Hi, my name is Jamie. I'm a chef and I love to write. For the last year and a half, I've been writing my story. My story is called Fallen Idol. We'll get to that one in a second. Fallen Idol, from the stars to the streets and back. Because as a writer, I've been taking the last 40 years of my life, or more specifically the last 20 years of my life, when I got my first diagnosis of being bipolar. There was indications in my teen years that I was definitely depressive, that I had depression, and I suffered from depression. But the bipolar diagnosis didn't happen until my 30s, until I was right in the middle of my professional career, right in the middle of thriving, right in the middle of succeeding. I crashed, and I crashed hard with a major depressive episode. I also experienced multiple manic episodes for the first time in my 30s, and it was a manic episode that brought me from Council Bluffs, Iowa, to Atlantic to get health care and to stay in a facility, which was a tough move for me because I've been independent all my life. I was put in a program for a place called Park Place, and Park Place has been a blessing in my life. Park Place is a facility that takes care of folks that have mental health issues or dual diagnoses. So if you're dual diagnoses, you have both an addiction issue and a mental health issue. So currently, there's another organization in our area called Zion, and they have treatment, and they have a dual diagnosis group that gets together once a week, sometimes more than that, but I get together with them once a week, and we do dual diagnoses recovery. So it's hand in hand, so that we're not alone. That's the biggest challenge about living with a mental illness, is that fear of being alone. You know, I also recently had my doctor tell me that I was pre-diabetic/diabetic. Can't be carrying this around. Gotta get back on that bike. Gotta get back on that pool. Gotta get walking and moving again. Eating healthier. My friend Georgia was talking about vitamin B and how essential vitamin B is to good mental health. How important it is to have a balance of vitamin C, vitamin D, and all the complex carbohydrates. You need your grains. You still need to have grains, but they should come from brown rice, not white rice. When I was having the pleasure of visiting with Chris, and we were working on an article for the newsletter, I talked to her about goos and glues. That's refined sugar and refined flour. Two things you want to avoid as much as you can is those refined flours and those refined sugars. When I worked with Hy-Vee, the reason I mentioned Hy-Vee is I had the pleasure of working right alongside a dietitian. I worked with two women that were incredible. They had so much knowledge, and every day we got to banter back and forth, we got to share, and sometimes we did demos together, and we made recipes together, because every day, could you imagine? Well, every day I had to create a brand new recipe to show the customers at Hy-Vee. But how is that different from any housewife? How is that different from any person living on their own that's trying to figure, what the heck am I going to make for supper tonight? What am I going to make that's delicious? Because guess what? I like flavor. And a lot of people think, oh, vegan, that's going to be cardboard. It's not going to taste like anything. Wrong. It's so vibrant. It's full of color and flavor and spice and occasionally a fly. But
that wouldn't be vegan.
No, that wouldn't be vegan. But you pick that fly out and you move on. You know? I'm honored to be here tonight because I get to share with you what it means to live with a mental illness. What it means to survive with a mental illness and what it means to thrive. So how do you thrive? Well, I'm just coming out of a depressive episode myself. Even before I came here tonight, I was dealing with depression. I actually struggled to get out of bed today. I struggled to do my room. Where I live, we have to do chores. We have to clean our rooms. We have to do our laundry. We have to cook for 15 other roommates. That's a lot of roommates, you know. Now as a chef, well, I can do that because when we have somebody come into a restaurant, it's going to be 15, 20, 30, 60 people. So I can handle cooking for 15, but the stresses are different. In our own lives, our stresses are at a different level. So you might be having a stressful day one day and not able to do your best. Has anyone ever heard of an author by the name of Don Miguel Ruiz? Anyone ever heard of him before? Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote a phenomenal book that I highly recommend. Google this book, okay? The 4 Agreements. Now, he took an interesting mixture of theology and history. So he took the Toltec. You've heard of the Aztecs. Some people have heard of the Aztec people, the Mayans, the ancient cultures. Well, they used to have whole grains. I'm trying to remember some of the, what's on the top of my head right now. Amaranth. Amaranth goes back to Egypt. It's a whole grain that's full of vitamins and minerals and nutrients. It's a whole grain. Not just something that you have for breakfast, but something that can last you all day long. So amaranth, spelt, millet is another good one. You put, when you make pancakes, you take these grains, these complex carbohydrates, and you put them in your pancake mix. You can still have pancakes, but just have a healthier pancake. Buckwheat. Buckwheat is an acid-free grain. Did you know that cancer will not thrive in an acidic environment? Or, excuse me, right? Cancer will not, I'm sorry, cancer, take it back, sorry. Acidic food, sorry. Cancer thrives in an acidic environment. Yeah, it thrives in an acidic environment, but it will not survive in an alkaline environment. So next thing, a simple thing to Google, okay, just remember those 2 things. Don Miguel Ruiz, the 4 Agreements, and acidic foods. Not Hasidic, but acidic. So, you got it, you got the joke. I'm part Jewish, so, there you go. You know, humor. Grace. Kindness. Love. Empathy. Compassion. These are the things that living with a mental illness has taught me, or instilled in me. My mother taught me those things. My grandmothers taught me those things. My dear friend Carl Mckenzie, a name that means nothing to you but means everything to me. We all have a Carl Mckenzie in our lives. Carl was Lakota, half Lakota Indian, and half Scottish. So he was 100% character. And Carl had the greatest laugh. He laughed like Buddha. He laughed like the Dalai Lama laughs. You ever heard the Dalai Lama laugh? He laughs and it's this joyful giggle. It's almost a giggle. And here's a man who, he's in his 80s or 90s now. I think he's almost in his 90s now, isn't he? But yeah, he would be. You know, Ellen White is someone I've just been introduced to in the last year and a half, and she was a prolific writer, and she has some great teachings on nutrition. So, you know, it's funny because I come from a more liberal background, but yet I've drawn to this particular family where we're at right now that's hosting our event tonight because of the food, because of the love, because of the empathy, because of the compassion, and because of the joy, and because of the laughter. You know, I tend to stay away from politics and religion, and we all know why, right? But I love it when you can get together with somebody and have a great conversation. And I think that's what we're here for tonight, is to have a conversation about nutrition and mental health. So how do you keep yourself balanced? Well, that apple a day, some of those adages, you know, that you hear, that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, you are what you eat, you know, all those things, they come from the Psalms, you know, they come from the Old Testament, they come from the lessons we were taught from our great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. And guess what they did? They planted a garden and they ate from it. How do you lose weight and get in shape? Eat less, move more. How do you get out of depression? Laugh. Cry. It's okay to cry. I express myself today because I'm not self-medicating. I take my medication. I take the medication that I have to take to stay balanced. The food that I eat, the water that we drink, that's how we stay balanced in here and in here. And exercise, wow. I can't wait to get on the bike again. I can't wait. I miss it, you know. Now the weather has been a little frightful recently, but look at the last few beautiful days we've had. You know, this is Iowa. This is February. And it's in the 50s. There's no reason why we cannot go for that walk, right? So, it really is that simple. Eat less, move more, and be conscious. Gandhi said that you should eat your soup and drink your meal. In other words, allow time to process that food with your choppers. Allow time for us, like so many of us, we're so busy and so stressed out and so, you know, gotta be here, gotta be there, gotta help this person, gotta do that. Especially those that are pastors, especially those that are directors, especially those that are mothers and grandmothers and brothers and friends. We feel this need that we gotta help, do. And then we have nothing left for ourselves. And we're so exhausted, we wonder why. Well, sleep. It's okay to take a nap. Naps are a blessing. I think it's the one thing they took out of preschool and kindergarten you should have kept for the rest of your life. Nap time. I treasure my naps. Anybody here like a nap?
Oh, yeah.
And they're good, but not for too long. You can sleep your life away, you know? So, I've worn many hats in my life. I brought one with me. It's somewhere over there in a bag. It's a chef's hat. And I asked my friend Anna, I said, should I wear it? No, I can tell you're a chef. I brought the outfit, but I didn't need the tote because I am a chef. But I'm also a singer and a writer. I mentioned that title of the book that I've been working on for a year and a half, right? Fallen Idol. Well, in 2005, I was a semi-finalist on American Idol, the television show with Carrie Underwood. Yeah, now that was a big deal because guess how many people auditioned for that show?
A lot.
103,000 people auditioned for American Idol that year. 103,000 people. And I auditioned for American Idol having never auditioned for anything on national television before. I went to Las Vegas and I went prepared with these 2 great songs and support of my community and commercials on a cable channel back home wishing me good luck and all this blah, 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 blah. And I didn't make it. And I didn't get it. And I started to walk away very crestfallen, very depressed, and, you know, rather quickly. And I stopped myself and I turned around and I went back to the producer and I said, excuse me, I said, what are you looking for? What do you want? What are you looking for in someone who's auditioning? She said, well, we know it when we hear it. Okay. So there was one city left, one last chance, and that was San Francisco. Last city, last chance to audition for American Idol. I was 28 years old. And I auditioned for American Idol with 2 songs. Otis Redding, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, and Tony Bennett, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. And a funny thing happened on the way to the opera. The producer was the son of the executive producer for the show, the one that I got in front of. And I auditioned for him with those 2 songs. Now, all you get is roughly 30 seconds. That's all you get is 30 seconds to make an impression. And I had to step back and let the other 2 people sing, and then we had to wait for our decision, and then 30,000 people showed up for the audition. 30,000, it's called the Cow Palace in San Francisco, a real famous theater, famous coliseum for live concerts. You know, the Grateful Dead used to play there, and all these great bands used to play there. Janis Joplin played there. And there I was, number 9,476.2, or whatever the number was. And I auditioned with my songs. And he said, okay, you're through. And I heard, you're through. So I turned around and walked away. He said, no, I mean, you're through. to the next round. And see, in life, that's the cool thing about this universe. You know, there's always that next line. There's always that next opportunity. There's always that next chance to do something with whatever God has given you. And God gives all of us talents and all of us abilities. We're just different. You know? We're just different. Mine happens to be singing and cooking and writing. You know? So what happened? Long story short, I got in front of the famous judges and I sang. Would you like to hear what I sang? Okay.
Sure. Give us a sampling.
The loveliness of Paris seems somehow sadly gay. The glory that was Rome is of another day. I've been terribly alone and forgotten in Manhattan. I'm going home to my city by the bay. I left my heart in San Francisco upon a hill. It calls to me to be where little cable cars climb halfway to the stars. The morning fog may chill the air. Oh, darling, I don't care. My love waits there in San Francisco upon the blue and windy sea. When I come home to you, San Francisco, your golden sun will shine for me. Thank you. And I didn't make it. But I did make the top 20. And I did get to make friends with Carrie Underwood, who went on to become super country star. And had me friends for life, and recorded a Christmas album, and recorded another album, and went and talked to kids, and encouraged kids, and college kids, and I perform, and I write, and I sing, and it's a part of the story. It's a part of the journey. I have an album that I'm working on, and it's called A Funk in the Road. Because, you know, do you like that? A funk in the road? Yeah. Because we've all come across that fork in the road. I usually pick it up and use it to eat, you know. But I've come across many funks in the road in my life. And when things get kind of funky, you just got to keep on kicking. You just got to keep on fighting. And that's what I've done throughout my entire life as a survivor of mental health and addiction issues. When I was in Council Bluffs, I got off my medication and I got back into self-medicating. And I began to use a substance, a drug, that I had told myself I would never use in my entire life. And it shocked my system and it shocked my spirit, and I almost lost my life. It was that reality. I came this close without sharing the horrid details, and they were horrid. I literally almost lost my life. I had a psychotic break, and it was right when COVID hit. So all of a sudden, the Catholic Church has shut its doors. The Mormon Church has shut its doors. The bars are all closed. It's the end of the world. You know? It was honestly those three things in collaboration. You know, the Catholic Church, the Mormon Church, and the bars. It had to be the end of the world. Right? And so there I was with my last 24-pack of beer and my substance of choice, trying to fight out the end of the world, thinking I was this, thinking I was that, fighting this battle, fighting that battle. And thank God the police showed up when they did. Thank God I got the help that I needed when I did. Thank God I got the therapy I needed. Thank God I got the counseling that I needed. Thank God that I got the treatment. And thank God I came to a little place called Atlantic, Iowa to get regular care at a place called Park Place where I'm cared for. You know? Where I got my roof over my head. I've got my own bed. I've got my own little apartment. You know? Today, I write a column in the Atlantic News Telegraph called Dinner in a Pinch. You might have seen it or read it yet. Have you? Cool. Thank you. It's a lot of fun, and I get to write it. And most times I make my deadline. You know? I got to be better about making the deadline. And that's true for a lot of things in life for me. You got to make the deadline. You got to stay on top of things. Find something that makes you happy. Find a way to be of service to other people. You know? Just that simple act of being of service to other people, it makes a difference, doesn't it? You can help someone else. And sometimes we don't have the energy. Sometimes we're tired. That's when you want to really say, okay, how can I make a difference in someone else's life? You do good? Cool. So tonight, it's kind of funny. NAMI, and thank you, by the way, thank you, Anna, for asking me to be here tonight, for inviting me to share part of my story, part of the journey. They brought fruit, I brought scones. Because you got to have a balance. And I know that those scones are going to go to a good home somewhere. We're going to share love and pass those out and find somebody next, you know, because they freeze well too. So that's good. But I love that she brought fruit. And, you know, my friend who was hungry had some black bean soup tonight. And she needed to nourish her body. It is so important that we nourish ourselves, body, mind, and spirit. So many more doctors and nurses and professionals in the medical field are finally really truly understanding how important positive body-mind dynamics is. And that's not a term I pull out of a hat. That came from my mother. She had her own business back in the 80s called Positive Body-Mind Dynamics. That balance of body, mind, and spirit. So if you can just find 3 days a week. So, no, you're fine. Just move. Maybe it's dancing. Maybe it's, you know, just moving your body. Like as simple as this. I'm not the greatest dancer, but I can move my body. Going for that walk. Find a buddy. Find a friend. Find a stranger and say, hey, you know, you want to go for a walk with me? They might look at you funny the first time, but after the second time you go for a walk together, they might look at you so funny. I am so blessed. You know, one of the most profound and simple prayers I ever said in my life was about 5 years ago in a little town called Sioux City, Iowa. I was staying in a trailer, working at the mall, doing some work for a kiosk, and I got down on my knees, got down on my knees to say a prayer, right? And all I got out was this. All I said was, God, thank you for my life. Wow. That's all I said. And I started to bawl. Like I cried. We're talking like, just like earth-shaking tears. Because I was thanking that higher power that I call God for everything. For all of it. For the nuts and bolts, for the down times, for the sad times, for the pain, for the struggle. Because, you know, as they say in Ireland, it's the struggle that matters, not the triumph. As an athlete, you know that. It's that struggle that matters, that journey, getting on a bike. It's a wonderful feeling when you cross the finish line, but if you don't pay attention to what's happening between the start and the finish line, you're not going to make it across that line, are you? So, you know, I did a show once in New York City, and I'll wrap it up with this. I was in New York City and I did a show. It was my debut in New York City. I actually got to perform in New York at a place called the Duplex, which is where Woody Allen and Joan Rivers and Joan Baez and all these great characters that some of those names you know, we know, you know. And they performed there. Well, I got to perform there too. And I sang in Spanish, and I sang in French, and I even sang in English. And I did it. I'm not the most famous person in the world, but I know a lot of famous people. I'm not the most successful person in the world, but I've found success. And what I do have is a gift that I can share with others. You know what that is? Joy. I am so joyful to sing. I'm so joyful to write, to laugh, and to have fun. You know? Just to have fun. And with that comes gratitude. So I'm grateful for each and every one of you that's here tonight. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for acknowledging and for laughing with me. And if I may, do we have time for one last one? Okay, one last one? Cool. I'd like to leave you with one song. A song, if you're okay with one more song. We ready for one more?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a song that was written by Carole King and made famous by her one of the loves of her life, James Taylor, as well. And it's a song called "You Got a Friend." Thank you. When you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand, oh, and nothing's going right, you close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I come running, want to see you again. Don't you know I'm talking about winter, spring, summer, or fall? All you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah. You got a friend. Now ain't it good to know that you got a friend? When people can be so cold, they'll hurt you, yes, and desert you. They'll take your soul if you let them. Oh, don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, want to see you again. Don't you know I'm talking about winter, spring, summer, or fall? All you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah. Now ain't it good to know that you got a friend? When people can be so cold, they'll hurt you, yes, and desert you. They'll take your soul if you let them. Oh, don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, want to see you again. Don't you know I'm talking about winter, spring, summer, or fall? All you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah. You got a friend, baby. You got a friend in me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Don't go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Stay here.
Thank you.
So, I have to say that I know tonight's topic was kind of mental health and nutrition, and we did touch on that, but I really feel like the message tonight was mental health and art. You know, it's really about doing those things that you love and you enjoy to help raise your spirits and to be in a good place mentally, you know. And for you, that's nutrition, that's cooking, that's singing, that's writing, and you came back to that again and again. And I feel like it's just that message that we all have to recognize what we love and find those things that are healthy coping skills that we can use, to help us through this thing we call life, right? Our faith, our hobbies, our
Support.
talents, whatever it may be. And so thank you so much for sharing that tonight.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it. Do we have any questions for Jamie? Questions, comments?
I have a comment.
Yes.
So when I did an article that's in our recent newsletter, and it was an interview with Jamie, and I have to say, if there's a long time ago, a friend of mine said, Chris, when you talk, you show a lot of pictures and you talk fast. And then I met Jamie. This guy talks fast and shows all the pictures.
Yeah.
It's just, it was one of the funnest interviews I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah, it was really great. So, and one thing that you didn't touch on that, I mean, it's common, but you talked about moderation,
Yes.
right? And how important that
Yes.
is. And, even though we're sitting here talking about joy and reaching out, I mean, moderation is important too, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything they want to share, or and we can? I'm gonna say good night to all of our Facebook fans out there watching. I'm gonna shut this down so we can have just a private, candid conversation, if we would like to.
He's waving at him. I just wanted to say